You are listening to the Tricorder Transmissions, episode 58. And now, here are Craig and Jeff.
Don't take too many puffs of that peace pipe or else you will miss the Tricorder Transmissions episode 58, The Paradise Syndrome. I am Craig.
And I am Jeff, and that was a lovely, pithy intro of your own, Craig. I'm pretty impressed.
I tried, you've been nailing these for the last, I don't know how many weeks. So I figured this time I'll give it my best shot. And I don't think I did as good as you did, but it was a valiant effort.
Well, you came out swinging, I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we have a lot of news this week. I think we've both been pretty busy in our personal lives, but I know that this episode is a favorite of April A. Bear, so I'm hoping that in the future we'll be able to get her back to talk a little bit about this. Maybe we'll have a little short supplemental.
Yeah, and if not, we can probably wrangle her for the season 3 wrap up.
Oh, for sure, definitely. That would be very, very cool. So the season 2 wrap up went so well. I think the season 3 is going to have to be a big extravaganza when we get there.
Yeah, followed up by our series extravaganza.
Yeah, and I think we've already teased a couple of episodes back that we're planning on doing some other big rundown type shows after we're done with all 3 seasons. So everybody out there's got a lot to look forward to, some rehashing of a lot of these episodes in different ways.
Yeah, I think it'll be like a month-long celebration of us closing the chapter, if you will, on the original series first 3 seasons before we move on to what we'll be doing next.
Yeah, and I think it'll be well deserved because I think both of us when we started this didn't realize how much of a commitment this was going to wind up being. But we've stayed the course and we've delivered every single week, so we deserve to celebrate a little bit after the end of 79 regular episodes.
Yep, and on our journey, we're going to have to work our way through the Paradise Syndrome to get there.
Yes, we will. And the Paradise Syndrome aired originally on October 4th of 1968, and the remaster came in February 24th of 2007.
All right, and Kirk loses his memory and joins the descendants of a tribe of American Indians.
Wow, that was very concise.
Yes.
I don't know how much more can you say about it than that.
Not much more.
All right, well, we're going to find out what the Paradise Syndrome is all about when we start our scene-specific commentary in 3, 2, 1. All right.
So here's a rare occasion.
Yeah, the episode that killed the season 3 budget.
I wonder how many people tuned in and said, wait, what are we watching here?
Yeah.
I thought we were getting Star Trek tonight.
Yeah, this is strange for a multitude of reasons. Number one, you're not getting the standard shot of the ship flying through space, and you're not getting a shot of a set. You're actually getting an on-location shot at a beautiful lakeside with some palm trees, some pine trees. And apparently they're on some sort of a road here, and there's a lot of flowers, and they're actually remarking about how similar this is to Earth.
Yeah, which kind of struck me as odd because even though they haven't beamed down to a planet that looks exactly like this, they've been on a lot of Earth-like planets.
They have, but I think this one seems even more Earth-like from the growth and the terrain, and I guess the smells that they're smelling, the honeysuckle with the hint of orange blossom thrown in. That Kirk, except for this bizarre stone obelisk-looking thing. And there's Spock using the tricorder the way he uses it.
Correctly in your words.
Yeah.
This was built specifically for the show, which I think is awesome.
Yes.
I kind of wish that this was something that was still standing, that you could go into, deep into the, or not deep, into the California forest and find. But I'm sure it was struck and disposed of once they were done with it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you think the budget for this episode, being spent on location shooting, and then you must think, I wonder how much they actually had to spend on that obelisk things. It looks pretty well made.
It does. I mean, I'm sure it's made out of wood or foam, but I mean that looks like stone, and it looks like some kind of mineral material. I mean, it's really awesome. I mean, that's one of the things I really like about this episode is the unique feel it has in terms of being shot so much on location.
Yeah, and I like the little cutouts for the symbols that they put all over it. I mean, they could have probably gotten away with maybe making one or two.
Yeah.
But they made 5 rows of tons of different symbols. They're not all the same either.
Mm-hmm.
So, and here's more set building going on here. You have a Native American village complete with smoking teepees.
Mm-hmm. So they're on this planet to do some investigative work before an asteroid hits the planet and destroys it.
Yeah, and they drop that time bomb right in the stinger, so the show barely even starts, and they've already set up that time frame that they have to execute this mission in.
Yeah, and the mission's to basically prevent the asteroid from hitting the planet.
Right.
Yeah, which I don't know. It seems like we've gone back and forth with the Prime Directive and how it's utilized on this show. But what would be the real incentive that Starfleet would have to save this planet?
Yeah.
Or the United Federation of Planets?
Well, maybe it's kind of like today in our own society. Maybe that planet has something that Starfleet wants. Maybe there's some kind of dilithium mining they could do there, or some other mineral that they've talked about prior on the show that they've detected on the planet, and therefore they'd want to save it for some reason or another.
Do you think if there was a stronger production team in place, that's something they might have even dropped in the script?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like something that would have at least been discussed, and I'm wondering if at this point the lack of real you don't have Gene L. Kuhn anymore. Roddenberry was tuning out. I'm just wondering, if that affected some of the problems I have with some of the elements of this story.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of little strange, plot holes that happen here, and little eyebrow raising things that, it's kind of funny that. Well, before I'm going to kind of ruin this, I guess, but the exact sequence of the sounds that Kirk just made, astronomically, the odds against it were, I can't even imagine, but he just happens to make the right sounds in sequence between the communicator and what he says to be the secret combination that opens the lock to this obelisk and this technology that's inside. And then he just so happens to be reaching up and presses the wrong button that electrocutes him. But why would the aliens who built that make it do that when you press that button?
Yeah.
It's like a mind erase button right next to the blow up the asteroid button.
See, I wasn't sure if it was a mind erase button or if that was just the effect that it has on Kirk.
I don't know. Well, maybe there's some sort of a programmatic if-then statement. No, if human from outer space equals in front of console plus button equals press, then erase memory. I don't know. I was trying to figure that out, but
yeah,
I guess it's another one of those things where if you can buy the fact that Spock's brain was pulled out and put back in, you can buy the fact that Shatner just had his mind erased.
Yeah,
by some alien technology that's meant to blow asteroids out of the sky. So, well, it's an asteroid defense mechanism / Men in Black memory wiper.
Yeah, it's what the normalizer? Neuralizer.
Yeah. So there, nice remastered shot of the planet there.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much Earth.
Yeah, just like it. Yeah. So there's Shatner slumped over the console.
Yeah, and we're getting what will be one of our only logs.
Yeah, and it's a Spock log.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how Spock flips open his communicator, but he doesn't say the right words. So again, it won't open for him.
Yeah.
It just so happened Kirk said the right thing. But so
Here's another problem I have.
go for it.
And this is a nitpicky thing, but Spock just said that this asteroid is almost the size of our moon.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, when we see it later,
Doesn't look that big.
it doesn't look that big in comparison to the Enterprise. It doesn't look like a planet killer to boot.
No, it probably could have some sort of a pretty bad sweeping ramification if it were allowed to hit the planet. But that's the weird thing about this. And I mean, I don't want to keep dumping all my ammo here before we actually get to these scenes, but maybe I'll hold on to it for now. But I like this little demo that Spock is giving to McCoy with these two rocks.
I love it. And
demonstrating that one is the asteroid. He just kind of knocks into the other one, saying, "Well, here's how close the asteroid is getting." While you're sitting here complaining about us leaving Kirk here.
It went from here to here. And you know what? I don't know if why, but watching this episode and Spock explaining this to McCoy, this whole episode I got like an In Search of vibe from Leonard Nimoy, and the narration that he provided for that show back in the 70s. And it's not something I normally noticed in Star Trek, and for some reason it jumped out at me in this episode. I don't know if Spock, if McCoy, if Nimoy was just slightly delivering his lines differently now, or it's a third season thing and he's that much closer to actually doing In Search of, and the way he delivers line is just naturally changing. But I just thought it was weird that after all these episodes, that's the first time that clicked in my head as being something that made me think of In Search of.
Yeah, and I'm kind of questioning why he needed to explain such a simple concept to McCoy. It seems like that's something that's really easy to understand. The asteroid is coming here.
Yeah, I guess that was
talk. It gets closer. I mean,
I guess McCoy was unfortunately used as a proxy for us.
Yeah, they're explaining the time bomb that they set up prior, and we had the great Kirk voiceover here, by the way.
Yeah, what are your feelings on the voiceover?
That's one thing I don't care for in this episode.
It just seems
voiceover. It seems unnecessary to me.
Yeah, but it also seems to betray the rules that the series have sort of set up.
Right. A lot of explanation.
Yeah,
and they don't
but not
really
even that.
need it.
Getting inside of characters' heads. Can you imagine if that was a tool that writers had used on other episodes? Can you imagine what like a muck time could have been like?
Yeah, you could have had the shots when Kirk and Spock are fighting, and you're getting those close-ups of each one. You could have the thoughts that are going on in their mind. I wonder what's going on in Spock's mind.
Yeah,
I must kill you.
Yeah, I guess there's really no way to sell that Kirk has lost his memory then with voiceover.
I guess. I mean,
I'm wondering.
know. I think they could have pulled it off another way.
I think so. I think creatively, if enough minds, worked on it, they could have found a way to either have him interact with that computer system, or even this scene with the two Indian girls.
I mean, they could have had him just say something. He picks up the phaser. He could have just said, "What is this thing?"
Yeah.
I mean, he could have done something of that because he did it without saying anything. He could have just used a couple of words to make it understand that he didn't know what those things were anymore. He's like, or he didn't know where he was. That would have been enough.
Yeah,
I think to set it up. I don't think the voiceover really was necessary.
Mm-hmm. So here's some Scotty stuff that I found really interesting in comparison to Scotty when it comes to being under Kirk's command. It seems like Kirk always knew or always knows how to push his crew to the point where he's going to get results for them. And it almost seems like Scotty here is beyond that point. In the sense that Spock is really asking a lot of him.
I don't think he's asking any more than Kirk would have because they've gone warp 9.5 before.
So why do you think Scotty's reacting the way he is? Is it for dramatic effect? Is it the fact that it's not Kirk?
Well, it's dramatic effect because they have to set up the fact that Spock his orders are taxing the ship so much that they're going to burn out the engines and therefore set up the rest of the episode. As it were. So, I mean, they have this episode. It supposedly is the longest span of time ever covered in an original series episode.
Yeah,
like 2
it's
months.
almost 2 months long.
Yeah. So Kirk is on the planet for 59 and some odd days, according to, well, that's the amount of time it's going to take them to get back once the ship is burned out. So
you can
Kirk
say 60 days. You can round up.
Yeah, Kirk's going to be there for an awful long time. So they have to set up a reason for that. So I think that's why you get a little bit of continuity trouble between prior episodes, because they've done stuff like this. They've taxed the ship this hard in the past, and it hasn't had the same effect.
You know how I would solve this?
Nearly,
almost 50 years later? I was thinking, why not put the planet in some kind of time bubble? In the sense that time on that planet moves at a different rate than time up in space.
Potentially. Yeah, I can see
that way you can have Kirk experience everything he experiences in the episode, because there's a lot expected of him, and that's why they needed the 2 months for it. But I almost thought it would have been a cool concept, even if they led with the fact that, they say to the, Scotty when they're going down to the ship, I don't know. It seems like it would have been cool to introduce some kind of time shifting device. But at the same time, the idea that this is an episode that takes place over 2 months is pretty amazing.
It is. And I think that fact that Kirk in Star Trek times in the 23rd century knows CPR, and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I mean, how often would he need that in the 23rd century? I mean, with the technology they have then, I mean, it just seems like that's not something that would be commonplace anymore.
But I guess that's so ingrained in him that, it's just raw training. It's probably, level 1 training that you get in the academy.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I would think, 'cause, I mean, we've seen people sustain grievous injury, and McCoy gives them a hypo spray and they're back to normal again.
Oh, totally.
I guess they must still teach CPR in the academy, huh?
Yeah, and
although Kirk's his methods are a little bit different.
Yeah, the leg rub. Yeah,
the leg rub was interesting. I guess to get the blood flowing again.
You know what I think is funny about this whole situation? The tribe instantly thinks that he's some kind of god based on the fact that he came out of that structure. He just saved this young boy's life. But I like the fact that Kirk never presents himself as such.
No, but he doesn't do anything to stop them from thinking that either.
No, I guess not.
I mean, he could have easily just said, listen, I'm nothing special. I'm just some guy. And, and especially because he comes down here. Now they're going to make him this medicine chief.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think he would say, wait a minute. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just kind of something that I've known for a long time. I mean, you would think that if they came to him with some other horrible medical condition somebody was afflicted with, he wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
No.
So,
but can you imagine some of those less scrupulous Starfleet captains being in this situation?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we've seen it happen before, but
exactly.
I don't know what they would get out of this situation, because these people don't have anything that's worth anything. I mean, you're not getting anything out of it. There's no immortality here. I mean,
No, but it's somebody without a memory dropped in a situation, and they say, "Hey, I'm medicine chief now. I can score Miramani." It's you're living a pretty, you're living pretty high in the hog.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have played out the same way. They wouldn't have scored Miramani. They wouldn't have been the medicine chief. They'd come down with a phaser and vaporized a few people, and then ruled them with fear. To what end? Till the asteroid hit and blew up the planet?
Yeah.
That would be kind of pointless. But here's your non-moon-sized asteroid, by the way.
Yeah, it looks great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, the remastered asteroid is interesting. It kind of is almost like diamond shaped, isn't it? It kind of looks a little bit. Doesn't look like an asteroid that you normally see. On it's kind of almost looks like Mystery Science Theater, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That moon. So I think it's pretty cool. We actually see a dilithium crystal again for the first time in a long. There it is.
Yeah.
Looks like a popsicle, but we haven't seen one of those in a while. When was the last time we saw that alternative factor?
Probably.
I think it was the last time we saw one that was shaped like that. Anyway,
Mhm.
has that almost popsicle like shape to it.
Yeah.
So really cool remastered shot with the phaser firing into the asteroid. I like that orange beam. It looks pretty neat.
Yeah. Is this the first time? By the way, that was a borrowed shot of Uhura.
Really?
She was not on the bridge for this sequence, from what I read.
Hmm.
They borrowed that from, I think, "And the Children Shall Lead," and just dropped it in to, I guess, give her a presence on the bridge for some reason.
Huh.
It jumped out as me as being a weird shot, which made me research it.
It is. Like the angle they shot it at and the look on her face was very weird.
Yeah, it almost looked like she normally turns the other way.
Yeah.
So it almost seems like maybe they flipped a shot or something to not have it look like the same shot.
That's why, because it looked like she would turn the wrong direction. Usually she's facing to the left.
Yeah, she normally just swings left. I mean.
Oh, good eye.
Yeah.
Good eye.
Yeah.
I didn't put two and two together to figure out why that looked so odd to me. But you nailed it.
I was going to ask you about the phaser scenario on the Enterprise. It seems like we get an indication that they have, what, 4 phasers here?
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Is that something we haven't known up until this point?
I don't recall ever hearing about that
Yeah.
before.
That was something I kind of worried about.
Yeah, that is a little bit interesting. I thought they just had the 2 phasers underneath the saucer there, and that's what they used to fire with. But I guess phasers can come from different banks all around.
Yeah. So now we get a really interesting scene between 2 non-regulars. We've got Miramani and
Salish. He's
the former medical chief, who I guess Miramani was pledged to whoever the medical chief was, and he's no longer medical chief, so she's not with him anymore, and he can't seem to deal with that. And she's like telling him basically, find someone else. There's plenty of other women that will be happy to get down with you.
Yeah, and then she totally crushes him. He has like, well, if you had your choice, would you pick me? And she just like walks away.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
So could
Miramani
you imagine being him?
Uh-huh.
Could you imagine being him?
Oh, no. I mean,
some dude comes from nowhere, steals your job and your fiance?
Oh, man. It's got to be. Yeah, no.
He's crushed.
Yeah.
It's like emasculating, man.
Oh, and the funny thing is, for him, he is instantly suspicious of Kirk, and he basically turns out being right.
Yep. He does. Kirk is a false god. But Kirk, like you said, Kirk never claims to actually be a god. But also, he kind of lies by omission.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't actually outwardly lie, but he doesn't tell them the truth.
Yeah.
That he's not. But who knows? Maybe his memory wiped. Maybe he thinks he might be.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he, because he doesn't recall where he came from. He just remembers waking up inside the obelisk. That maybe he thinks, by some off chance that he is some sort of god who's sent to save them. And he just doesn't know what to do yet.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Mm-hmm. So this actress here playing Miramani is Sabrina Sharf, born 1943. She actually went from Star Trek. She tried to get into politics. She ran for Senate in 1976 unsuccessfully. And she's now working as a real estate developer.
Oh, wow.
But before that, she was probably, a lot of people recognize her from the film Easy Rider.
Yes. That's where I recognized her from as well.
Yeah, but apparently that Senate race was very, very close. She lost to the incumbent by, I think, less than 1,000 votes.
Wow, that is pretty close. That is pretty close. Something that I do really like about this episode is that we've seen a lot of, and we've complained a lot about all the Earth-like planets and societies we've seen so far. This is the only one that I can recall that really tries to give us some sort of an explanation as to how it got there.
Yeah.
Because they say, I think Miramani said the wise ones brought them there from far away.
Yeah.
And we'll find out later on that it was supposedly a race called the Preservers,
Mm-hmm.
who saved potentially dying races and transplanted them onto other planets so that they could continue living. So kind of like an anti-Prime Directive people.
Yeah. And if Robert Bloch had written this, they would have been called the Old Ones.
And you know what else I kind of thought, though, that was kind of weird, though, is
Yeah.
if these Preservers really do that, if they really do drop races onto new planets, they had to drop them on this planet and build that asteroid defense system. Why didn't they just put them somewhere else where asteroids wouldn't collide into the planet?
Yeah.
Why would they put them there and then have to build this kind of fly-by-night, shoddy defense system that relies on, a father passing a secret to his son? What would happen? Like, I mean, in this scenario, Salish's dad knew how to get in and operate the machines, but he died before he could pass it on. Now nobody else knows how to do it.
Yeah. I could only think that maybe that race really just liked challenges. When you decide to start saving entire races, you'd think they'd be down for, sort of ice skating uphill, if you will.
Maybe. That seems kind of sadistic, though. It's almost kind of like what Kirk did to Khan. Just dump him on a planet. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
Hope you can survive. We're not coming back to check on you. I don't know. And I feel bad for the poor elder. Because he gets duped pretty much the hardest of anybody. I mean, Viramani, at least, she gets some happiness out of being with Kirk. But the poor elder, man, he's convinces the rest of his people. And and then when he thinks Kirk is mad at him or something, that he assumes that they're not doing well enough, and they haven't advanced far enough, and that the gods are mad at him. I just feel bad for the poor guy.
At least he's alive at the end of the episode.
That is true. That is true.
So I know the last couple episodes I've been talking about what was going on the date that the episode aired.
Ooh, more baseball?
No, this is not baseball related. I think you're going to dig this fact.
Okay.
So as we talked about, this episode aired on October 4th, 1968. And that night, you had a choice if you lived in Oakland, California. You could either stay home and watch Star Trek, or you could have bought a ticket down at the Oakland Coliseum Arena to see the rock group Cream.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were on tour at the time, on their second tour, and they played that night in Oakland.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. A little smoke coming out of Scotty's console there. Here's your 4 phasers.
Yeah.
By the way, that you're bringing up. Yeah. And it's not working. And this is where they burn out, or Spock burns out the phaser banks and I guess the warp engines. And we got this great shot of Scotty here.
Great physical acting.
Yeah. Lamenting his ship.
Yeah,
I love that.
He does like this shrug, and then like an even deeper shrug, almost like you see the complete defeat that he feels, and also sort of the pain he feels for the ship.
Oh, for sure. And
it's a great physical acting moment.
It is, and I love it's a very short little scene with very little dialogue, but you get more of a feel for how Scotty loves the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And check out Shatner's natural hair there, by the way.
Yeah.
That's Shatner's hair with no product in it.
Yeah.
Which I really like that.
Yeah, and we'll have to take note of his sideburns later, because those are noticeably different as well.
They are.
They fall out of their sort of Starfleet regulation cut or trim.
Yeah, I like the costumes in this a little bit more than some of the costumes we've seen in prior episodes, especially Spock's brain and the costumes that they had the morgues in.
Yeah, well, all the colors work together here.
They do. I think they're a little bit, the colors may be a little bit over the top in places. You have to wonder where they got all the dyes to make those intricate patterns with, but they are pretty neat looking. I got to give him that. So here we got the second. I love how Spock has that wooden chair in his quarters.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
He's got all the other the Star Trek type chairs around, but he's got a wooden one in front of his little monitor there. It's very interesting. I wonder if that's some sort of a Vulcan share.
Yeah,
Gonna have
maybe.
to look for that. But now you've got a conflict here too, which
Yeah,
is
you
pretty
got
cool.
McCoy is very, very up for arguing with Spock this episode.
Yeah, well, he's kind of angry and potentially rightly so. So it seems that Spock's orders have crippled the ship, and as far as McCoy is concerned, it has probably doomed Kirk to death if he's even still alive, because they're not going to be able to get back to the planet for almost 2 months on impulse power, because Scotty's just told us that there's no warp drive. He's only got impulse, and strangely enough, he can't repair them.
Yeah.
Which is something that we don't normally get out of Scotty. And I wonder if Kirk was there, do you think he could have fixed them?
I'd like to think so, but I don't know. I mean, Kirk isn't a magician.
No, but Scotty always seems to be able to pull off the miracle for Kirk. I don't know.
Yeah.
He did pull off the phaser miracle in the Galileo 7, where they got enough power into the shuttlecraft to get him off. So I guess Kirk wasn't necessary for that.
Yeah.
But and his life was on the line as well. Maybe that was enough. But who knows?
I don't know. You'd think that Scotty would want to really impress Spock.
True. Now look at this. Now Kirk is actually wearing a different outfit for this scene.
Yeah, well, that was so they could sell multiple versions of the action figure.
The Mego action figure. I love the gesturing.
Yeah, this is more internal dialogue.
And he's hugging himself.
Yeah, he seems to be getting drunk with the power.
Yes, or the drunk with the happiness.
Yeah.
He's suffering from the Tahiti Syndrome, as McCoy said earlier.
Yeah.
Which is something that was common, supposedly, to people who were in command. The stress of that position would force them to dream about being in some sort of an idyllic scenario. So.
And now we've got the "if it bleeds, we can kill it" moment.
Yes. So there's a god who bleeds. Now it's interesting. He's got a stone knife.
Yeah.
So Salish carries a stone knife with him. I'm sure that's used for skinning, but we get a little Trek knife fight now. This is interesting because Kirk's training here is not something he's forgotten.
Yeah,
he's forgotten who he is, but he still remembers all of these great kicks that he always uses.
But even Salish knows, he knows how to do this takedown later, where he sort of kicks Kirk over his leg, Let me see. It might have come up already. Yeah, it did come up already. But it seemed like even his fighting was a little advanced.
It was. Yeah, I can see that. But yep. And now here we got the hero moment where he refuses to kill him.
Yeah. And
just kind of walks away from the fight. But you never leave your enemy with his weapon to come after you. I mean, Kirk only threw the stone dagger a little bit away. He could have just grabbed it, ran right after him again. But
yeah, check
out those feathers, man.
That's boss. That's another accessory you could have mailed away for.
Man, that is some serious garb right there.
Yeah.
So I gotta say they did a decent job on the costumes in this episode.
Oh, totally.
As opposed to some of the other ones. And we jump 2 months back to the Enterprise, and now McCoy is strangely okay and has become more supportive and almost makes some excuses here to kind of absolve Spock. And he's like, "Oh, nobody's blaming you anymore. I've kind of cooled off myself. Now you just need to rest."
Yeah.
He's actually almost treating Spock like he treated Kirk. So,
totally.
2 months has changed McCoy's attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And he's forgiven him. So this is interesting because they've gone from this adversarial relationship for the first, 2/3 of the episode. Now McCoy is the supportive friend that Spock needs. But thankfully, all of Spock's studying of the obelisk has paid off. Mm-hmm. And now he at least knows their musical notes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we learn here, I guess, that when focused on something, Vulcans can go weeks without sleep.
That's what he says, but he doesn't look like he can go weeks without sleep. He almost fell asleep right there.
Or even food, where McCoy says what his metabolism, um,
It's slow, yeah.
yeah, it's barely noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a reading. Um, I don't know. This is all stuff that I'm sort of pocketing for the upcoming essential vote.
Okay. Well, don't flip your hand too
No,
soon.
no, and there we finally get some.
And there's the bed sheets you want.
Oh man, I love those. I love that pattern.
Somebody's got to sell it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got to be out there somewhere. I love how Spock has all of the Spock-like things adorning his rooms. He's got the Vulcan thing with the bells from the Amok Time episode. He's got the 3D chessboard back there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he would choose to personalize his space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think that's something that someone who's not sentimental or emotional wouldn't have a desire to decorate.
Yeah.
I love this shirtless.
Yeah, well, it's another action
Shirtless
figure variant.
Yeah. But yeah, this is kind of sad though, that Kirk he's really seems to be enjoying himself a lot more than we ever see him enjoy himself while he's in his tour of duty.
Yeah.
You know, he's actually getting to experience life in a different way than he normally does. So it's kind of nice to see him this way, but it's kind of sad that, knowing what's going to happen at the end of this episode.
Yeah. It becomes a sort of a forgotten tragedy.
It's pretty
Kirk.
Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't seem affected by it at all. There's those sideburns too, by the way, but he doesn't seem to have a long-term, effect.
Yeah, well, this was all Kirok, so.
Yeah, but still, when his memory is restored, he still remembers, the feelings that he had and all of that. So.
But I like this. He's talking about these dreams that he has.
Yes, about the strange lodge that moves through the sky.
Yeah.
As Miramani calls it. So she thinks of it in terms of a Native American structure.
Yeah.
That flies.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
So this episode was written by Margaret Arman, who we've last saw her work. She wrote The Gamesters of Triskelion. She also, we're going to see her work upcoming on The Cloudminders. And she wrote 2 episodes of the animated series, The Lorelei Signal and The Ambergris Element.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I always like those recurring writers.
Yeah. It was funny. I didn't remember her name. And then when I looked, I was like, oh, we already talked about her. So kind of neat. And the episode, this was a first-time director for Trek. Judd Taylor, who died in 2008 at the age of 76. He went on to direct 5 episodes of Trek after this. And we're next going to see him in Wink of an Eye.
Uh-huh.
And later in life, he had a pretty long directing career. He directed 5 episodes of Law and Order.
Oh, nice.
Just to show how long he was working for.
Wow, I'm a big fan of Law and Order. Very cool stuff.
Doom doom.
Yep. Oh, and now we find out that Kirk has fathered a child.
Yeah.
So, here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the only Trek episode in which we actually have evidence that Kirk had sex with somebody?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to retcon, sure, yeah.
Yeah, because we've seen plenty of times where he's been making out with someone and then the lights go dim and then you see the next day or whatever when they wake up and you don't really know for sure what happened. But this time we know that Kirk definitely had to have sex at least once with Miramani to become a father. So pretty interesting stuff there. And now he's in bringing all of these technological advances.
Yeah, how to preserve and to stockpile.
How to irrigate and how to make a lamp so that they can have light indoors at night. So he really does seem like some sort of a god, or I don't know how else they could possibly interpret him.
Yeah.
And here's where everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Yep, the wind kicks up, and obviously Miramani is shaken by the fact that the wind has kicked up, and we're going to get what is the beginning of the asteroid coming closer. I'm not sure why the asteroid causes wind to kick up. You know, being out in space quite a ways.
I don't want to say I doubt Miramani, but I'm thinking about this pregnancy thing.
Yeah.
How certain can she be?
I think we would benefit from having a woman on the show, but I'm going to assume that she could be pretty certain.
Yeah, but I mean, without really being to the point where you're showing.
I think if we had a woman on the show, they would be able to explain it to you. So I'm not going to.
I'm just wondering because it seems like at the end of the episode, there's no indication from McCoy. But I don't know if that's something they wouldn't have wanted to talk about at the time.
You probably couldn't talk about that. Seeing as what Vernon said about Spock's face having to be exposed during the brain surgery because people were sensitive, I'm sure that they would not want to have McCoy say, "And the baby's died too."
Yeah. I mean, well, the whole ending of this episode seems kind of heavy.
Oh, it's very, very dark. And I think this to me is the darkest ending of any TOS episode. You know, we've seen some rough stuff happen, but man, this is difficult because Miramani throughout the entire episode has done nothing but be, you know, innocent and loving and caring and, you know, and does what she has to do and as far as what her tribal duties are, and she just seems like a genuinely good person, and she really kind of doesn't fare well, and I think it's very undeserved.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
To her. You know, I would think that maybe Salish, you know, you could understand maybe if he got whacked at the end, maybe he wouldn't feel as bad, but there's the big I am Kirok moment.
Yeah.
Oh, Shatner. Oh, it's one of your moments.
Yeah, he's trying to will himself in there.
Well, maybe, you know, this is making me think maybe he did think that he was some sort of a god or a person of prophecy.
He started believing his hype.
Yeah, well, I mean, what other choice do you really have?
Yeah.
I mean, if you woke up someplace, you know, like that and you had no idea how you got there, and then some guy says, you know, we had a prophecy that somebody would emerge and save us from this thing, and you just happened to show up at the perfect time. I mean, maybe you could probably be convinced. And he was there for 2 months with people telling him he's a god the whole time.
Yeah.
So maybe he did buy into it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, here is Spock explaining the preservers. So this episode perhaps explains all of the other Earth-like societies we've seen. Maybe the preservers dumped them all there.
Yeah.
You know, that this could be you know, the Wikipedia. This could be the entry that we've been looking for. The encyclopedia to explain away all of this other stuff that we've seen that we couldn't figure out before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe this explains the Omega glory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know. I thought maybe it was a possibility.
Oh, no, totally. Yeah. And here we've got the stoning sequence where
this is rough.
The tribe has turned on Kirok.
Yeah, this is rough. And you know, the amount of fans they must have had to blow that much sand
outside.
And debris outside. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, think of it from a set building perspective. I mean, they can barely keep their hair out of their faces, man.
Yeah,
and look at that, and they throw stones at Miramani as well. I mean, that's pretty rough.
I know. Oh, and she goes down pretty quick. Now, I want to watch this sequence here because McCoy and Spock beam in.
Yep.
And the tribe, they run away not because of McCoy and Spock, but because they're like, we're done here.
No, see, they look off to the side and they see him there.
Yeah,
I don't think they were necessarily done. I think they really were scared.
So who do you think they thought Spock and McCoy were?
Well, I'm assuming that if he really was some sort of a god and they were killing him, that other gods beamed down or just appeared out of thin air to stop them.
Yeah. So that had to really screw with their minds, probably.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Prime directive, no way. You know, but I guess they had to do what they had to do at this point. But, you know, poor Miramani. I love how Chapel's eyes are closed when she beams down.
Yeah, she comes down, you know, I guess she didn't want to get any dirt in her eyes.
I guess not.
She probably knew the environment they were being into, right?
Maybe, or that, or I thought maybe she was scared of beaming. Maybe that's why maybe she was like kind of like McCoy and she was frightened of it. So, I mean, how often do you see Chapel beaming around?
Not very often. This might be the first time.
I think what are little girls made of?
Oh, right.
This,
Yeah.
this and that. I mean, I don't know if I've seen her beam anywhere else. I love Spock's like nurturing pose here. He's got her head resting on his thigh. He's kind of. It's almost the same kind of a pose we saw him in the Enterprise incident when he was romancing the Romulan.
Yeah.
So this is more of almost like a feeling Spock in a way. But nope, he's going to lay her head back down on the hard concrete. But and I love how he's going to do the mind meld here, but they call it the Vulcan mind fusion.
Yeah.
So the name kind of changes a little bit here and there. So
yeah. I almost thought maybe this is a slightly different technique.
Perhaps. I don't know. It's a good question. Huh. But I guess they have to restore Kirk's memory somehow. I didn't know that was a Vulcan power, though, being able to restore someone's memory.
Yeah. Well, I took it to think that he went deep enough in Kirk's... No, seriously.
No, I know. You just made me think of Inception.
Oh, yeah.
You had to go deeper, man.
Yeah, but he's accessing parts of Kirk's memory that Kirk isn't able to access and bringing them to the surface.
Perhaps. Good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't take the headband off first.
No.
Interesting he verbalizes through the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, trying to reason with Kirk and bring the memories out. But I love the fact that Kirk's mind is so powerful that Spock has a tough time with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he even has to say as much. That Kirk is an extremely dynamic individual. So we've seen him do mind melds before where they didn't affect him at all.
Yeah.
And this time he's mind melding with Kirk and it has some sort of an impact on Spock. Interesting facial expressions too, by the way.
Yeah.
Nimoy really sells it.
Yeah, it almost made me think of the sequence where he's from Devil in the Dark.
Right. There you go. I love how he kind of he's looking visually exhausted, visibly exhausted from that exchange. Pretty cool though. And Kirk, I love how Kirk just kind of springs back up. He's like, "Yeah, it worked."
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. You did it.
Yeah, I got this.
All right. And yeah, it worked. And poor Miramani, but I think he still has his full memory of everything he's been through there. Because obviously he still remembers her and still has a connection with her.
Yeah.
So, and how is he, I guess he changed, he must have changed his clothes back to that other, the other outfit he had on with this pattern on it.
Yeah.
So he was only in the wedding garb for a little while. Now he's changed back to his regular clothes. But poor Miramani is kind of down for the count there. That's such a shame.
Yeah.
But you know what I think is really cool? That we've heard Kirk flip open the communicator and say Kirk to Enterprise a bunch of times, but we never knew that was also the intergalactic equivalent of Open Sesame.
Yeah.
So who would have thought that Kirk to Enterprise with the little chirps on it actually meant Open Sesame? So I'm going to try that. Every time I can't get into a door, I'm just going to say Kirk to Enterprise, and hopefully it'll open for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Very interesting. And they still have the wind mechanisms blowing all the debris around. I wonder what it was like to shoot this scene or a group of scenes.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll find out when we read These Are the Voyages Season 3 by
can't wait for that to
Mark
come
Cushman.
Out. I'm sure this I love how Miramani's on top of the slab when it moves.
Yeah.
But
and now we've got Kirk giving the familiar, if we don't achieve our goal in a certain amount of time, you get the Enterprise to safety.
Of course. Yeah, he wouldn't be Kirk if he didn't. And he gives Miramani another kiss before he goes down. It's a shame. But man, I can't wait to read about this episode in These Are the Voyages. This has got to be really interesting. The production of this episode with all these different things.
Oh yeah, between the on location stuff, the building of the obelisk, and
Yeah, this interior here is even
yeah,
different.
yeah, that looks like a completely unique set.
Yeah, I don't recall ever seeing those structures. I mean, we've seen the kind of those cave walls,
Yeah,
but
the rocks. Yeah,
yeah, but all these different apparatuses, this computer thing, and the more symbols on the walls, they obviously had to have been built for this.
yeah, it doesn't look like anything that's been repurposed.
No, no, interesting. That's why I've heard this mentioned so many times that this was the episode that the budget was so crazy that it impacted budgets for other episodes.
Yeah,
So yep, and they've deflected the asteroid.
yeah.
So Kirk could have done that if he had just happened to have pressed the right button at the beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But instead he pressed the mind wipe button by accident. He pressed the jettison memory button. So this is it. This is your dark ending.
Yeah.
McCoy can't even fix her.
Yeah,
Now, this is one of those things where I would think Kirk could say something like, listen, bring her up to the ship.
Yeah.
Get her into sickbay and fix her there.
Oof.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And this is also one of those unique episodes that doesn't end on the ship as well.
Right. And yeah, it ends with Kirk kind of
like a poetic sort of ending where he recites this internal dialogue.
Yeah, it's tough, man. This is very, very depressing ending. I mean, you could really feel what Kirk must be going through at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen him romancing chicks before, but this kind of feels almost like an Edith Keeler type.
Yeah.
Of romance for him, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Poor guy. But at least he gets a little last moment to talk to her there for, and even now she's still happy.
Yeah.
She's still smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, she thinks she's going to pull through.
I hope she has that bright of an outlook.
Oh, yeah.
But Kirk knows the truth. And it's a shame. But I guess we're coming to the point where we're going to have to cast our essential votes.
Yeah. But real quick, what happens if she doesn't die?
Yeah. Well, I guess Kirk has a son. He would have to make the choice to either stay there or take her with him.
Yeah. Oof.
I mean, I guess prime directive wise, they've already broken it. So what's the difference if they take her?
Yeah. Prime directive breaking by memory wipe.
Yes. But it still counts.
Yeah.
It still counts.
All right, yes.
They've also revealed themselves by beaming down and exposing themselves to the villagers. So that's also a prime directive break.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, for essential voting?
Sure, if you're ready.
Now, I know I'm trying to avoid contradicting myself. So I think to remain consistent in my sort of history of voting, I have to vote this essential.
Wow.
You have Kirok, which is an extremely quotable line from the series. But then also you have some Vulcan physiology that's described that I don't think is really mentioned other times. That is kind of important. And I think some of the functions of the ships that we see. So for those reasons, I'm leaning towards essential unless you can really, really convince me otherwise.
I don't think that I can because I'm kind of like a 55-45 right now for essential.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For this one. Yeah, simply because, well, of course, Kirk fathers a child. I think that's pretty important character moment for him. I mean, while it's not something that you carries on into the future, it's definitely something that's nice to know. Well, maybe not nice to know, but maybe to find a different way to phrase that. But it's something significant that happened in Kirk's life, and it's maybe something that he would carry with him that may in some way affect things that he did in the future.
Yeah. And
also, I thought the concept of the preservers was quite interesting. In the fact that it sort of kind of comes back up in a Next Generation episode where they didn't actually name the race as the Preservers, but in the episode The Chase, Next Generation, they come across an ancient race of humanoids, and they wind up on a quest to reveal the origin of human life, and it was kind of said, and it was unspoken and unwritten, but it was kind of said later on that they were intended to be or could have been the preservers. So that's why I'm kind of just over the fence here on the essential side. And, there's great character moments, of course, with Kirok, some good Spock and McCoy moments in there to just kind of add a little bit and kind of push it a little over the edge. But I can see this being one that I may change my mind about in the wrap-up episode.
All right. Fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was kind of surprising because I up until we sat down to record this, I didn't really think I was going essential here. But then as we watched it and talked about it, and I saw the amount of things that were going on in terms of all the reasons I gave and you gave, that's one of the things that's always sort of fascinates me about this show is you can sit down with one, the intention to do one thing and then you end up voting the other way. Yeah. So very neat, and I never get tired of it.
Totally, yeah. I completely agree, and this is one of those episodes where I remembered that I was lambasted for months about downvoting Shore Leave, because of Finnegan and being part of Kirk's backstory. So when I was thinking about this episode, and I think Kirk fathered a child, although the child didn't survive. I mean, if I vote Kirk's Academy bully essential, I have to vote Kirk fathering a child essential, don't I?
Exactly.
I think that's more significant than Finnegan, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of had to go that way. But at any rate, great talking through this episode.
Yeah, this was a fun discussion.
Had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, and we will be back with the dreaded "And the Children Shall Lead" next week, which is one of April A. Bear's least liked episodes.
Yeah.
So, anything else, Craig?
No, I guess just keep on interacting with us over on Facebook and Twitter. We've really been enjoying a lot of the interaction we've had in it, and it's great because it's an extension of this show. It's we sort of branch out a little bit from just discussing original series episodes. We've been talking about Shatner's possible appearance in Star Trek 3, and we've even recently been talking about there was a thread with Matt the other day about Star Trek 3, right? The Search for Spock.
Yep.
Yeah. So some neat stuff over there. So if you haven't already, head on over to the Facebook page, which is the Tricorder Transmissions, and we'd love to see you over there because there's been some really, really fun interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Can't agree with you more. So hopefully we'll see some of you over there in the very near future.
Yeah, and if not, we'll see you back here next week.
Once again, we've come to the end of another episode of the Tricorder Transmissions, and speaking of endings, we have a sneak peek at the final episode of the first season of the Red Shirt Diaries. Here are Ashley and Jason to tell you about it.
This week, in a very special episode of the Red Shirt Diaries, it's Ensign Williams' day off. Too bad an alien named Baylock has decided to visit the Enterprise.
Dun, dun, dun. Now, as we've talked about in previous episode, this is my favorite episode of the original series. And I think it's because it's the first... I like Star Trek episodes that can explore things, and you basically meet this big old ball of alien, and they're just like they don't know how to deal with it, right? They spend the whole episode trying to figure it out, and Kirk has to smart his way out of it. And this was a difficult one to figure out how we would do an episode about it. But when you bring up the idea that not many people have portholes in the ship, but Ensign Williams does, and there's this big old bright glowing ball out in space, I think that would affect your life, and especially if it was your day off. And that's how we deal with it. So it was a great honor of mine to voice Baylock.
Is there any Tranya to speak of?
It is spoken of.
It is spoken of.
Aha.
Yes.
Very cool. Thank you guys once again for coming on. It's been awesome to have you on these last few episodes talking about your show, and we look forward to what the future holds for you guys.
Thank you so much for letting us come on this podcast and talk about our love of Trek with you guys. We love the episodes. We love the podcast. We love all Star Trek fans. So this has been a real pleasure.
We'll miss you next week.
Well, you can always come back on. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good one, okay?
Bon voyage.
Bye.